So you're probably wondering, as a beginner, where should you start in the game AWTD? And this has been a question that has plagued this community, especially with the recent events on Roblox, with a lot of people kind of transitioning into this community. They start to question where should they start, and what other kind of characters and whatnot should they invest their time into getting. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you a completely beginner-friendly guide on where you should start, what units that you should be trying to get as a beginner, and what content should you be playing. So starting off with the content, we're going to click Warp and go to Adventure. And we're going to give kind of a small breakdown as far as what exactly you should be looking for here in the Adventure tab. So if you look through the events, you'll notice that there's several modes, being Story, Raid, Event, Endless, and Legend stages. Now, as a beginner, your main focus is to be beating this story and getting as far as possible as you can with the units that you may or may not have. I can tell you from experience that there are a few units that could beat most of the entire story by themselves, and I'll be getting into that a little bit later as far as what units you should be trying very desperately to get as a beginner and where you should kind of go from there. So as far as story goes, there's a few units that'll come in mind as far as what exactly you want to be trying to get, as getting all the units in the game and having a big collection isn't the biggest goal. You just want to have units in a team that can benefit you as far as getting to maximum proficiency as you're trying to get everything and you want to grind materials and all this other stuff. And the thing you have to keep in mind is that not one unit is good for absolutely everything. There's different metas, different teams, different supports, and all types of stuff. As you probably know, as most of you that are watching this video are probably frequent tower defense players anyways, so you should know that it's pretty common to have all this stuff in a game to begin with. The thing you want to keep in mind, get a little more positioned here, is the biggest issue that you'll always come across in these types of games is you always want to get the biggest and best and coolest units first, when this is not the way to go as far as playing AWTD, because it doesn't really push that hard as far as making it easy for beginners to obviously get these super OP units. And even people along the lines who have played this game a great deal still struggle to get some of these units when they initially come out. So that is a consistent problem that I see a lot, and a lot of people are always questioning where to start. And the first couple of units that I'm going to recommend are all common units. I know that's probably going to break your heart, considering that, common units aren't good and yada, yada, yada. But to really get into the game, you have to start somewhere. And I'm going to be giving you the best start characters that you can get very, very easily, and some of them being more beneficial than you probably think. First one we're going to talk about is common Luffy. His Evo is very, very easy to get. All you have to do is beat some of the Marineford raid, and you'll be able to get his Evo very, very easily. Getting his damage is easy. Getting the gold for him is really easy, and you're not wasting so much gold when you are maxing him out and stuff like that. And obviously, re-rolling him, you can do whatever, but he's very beneficial considering he's a crit, which means he'll also come in handy when it comes to farming the Metal Rush when you are starting off. He's obviously not going to be the best critical unit in the game, but he's definitely a very, very good pickup for beginners, and you can literally get him within a couple of hours, even if you don't really know what you're doing. You just need to kind of know where everything is, and you'll eventually build up to having him. And his team in particular is pretty easy. Most of these teams actually have units that don't require evos to have some of these, and some of these categories are very good. And even if you didn't have a category, he's still going to perform decently well as far as his performance. And keep in mind that you can also place 8 of him So he's naturally going to have a higher chance of critting because there's so many of him, and he's going to perform very, very well. The next one I'm going to be recommending that you can get is going to be the One Eye Monster, being Kaneki, because he is a very good bleed unit. Despite the common misconceptions that you have to have the best units in the game, is always a thing that plagues this community because people are always going to tell you to go for the absolute best units when that's not true at all. The smaller tier units that may not be the best in the tier list or leaderboard still perform admirably on their own, and Kaneki being actually still one of the best bleed units in the game, despite what most people think about him. And his Evo is absolutely insane, and his Evo is also very, very easy to get. So he's also a very good pickup if you're struggling a little bit more towards the elemental units in this game. As you guys know, bleeding is a absolute 100% proc. So as long as he's hitting them, he is going to be dealing DOT to them regardless. And he's a very, very good beginner pickup as far as getting started into the field. Now, obviously, there are some units out there that you can pull that just blatantly could be better than him. But like I said, when you're evoing units, evoed units are going to stack higher than most base towers in the game. And that's something to keep in mind, that even if the Evo seems bad, they are still usable depending on what level you are and where you are at in the game. So he's also a very good pickup. Now, is something that most people don't actually look towards as far as getting him, but he's actually a lot more better than what most people give him for. He can solo just about every raid up to chapter 6, I believe, which is the Kata Revenge. He's not capable of beating Katamura City. He can if you have the right setup and you have the right things going for you. But as far as that, he's capable of beating the first 5 chapters of raids in the entire game just by himself, and that's without buff and anything like that. You can just put him in your first slot of any team, and you can literally just run him and pretty much beat most of them just with a rare And a lot of people don't really remember these days because there's not a superb amount of veteran players who are willing to really spread this information. Obviously, they want to give you the best tactics and all this other stuff. And there are some players out there who are willing to reach out, but still, uh, having unevoed units, even as a beginner, you can still beat some of this content. But I want to give you the list of evos that you can get as a beginner. They're going to benefit you more than trying to get the best unit in the game and wasting your time because you're either not capable of beating it by yourself or you're having trouble getting a team put together and being able to play it with other people. So is also a very good pickup as a starter. Plus, he comes with innate knockback, which is not the greatest trait in the entire game, but it is still very, very overpowered in some cases, especially if you have a lot of knockback units placed down. So that's it for common and the rare section. I can't confidently say in the rare section that there's not anything really too crazy. You could pick up this unit as well. I don't remember her name from the anime. It's gonna plague me for the rest of my life, but she's also a very good pickup and has a very, very cool ability. And I nearly say that she's a small nuke in her case to most people, but she does do some pretty cool stuff, and she is also a very good pickup in the Evo if you're just trying to get started off. Goku Super Saiyan is also another good pickup if you want to have something that raises attack and deals a good amount of damage. He's not the craziest thing in the world, but he is still a viable pickup for those beginners that want to get started on some Evos. And the raid that you're going to do for him is probably one of the easiest raids in the entire game right now. And you can literally get this guy's Evo by just beating the raid with and you're going to be stacking up some decent hill units because he is also a innate hill unit, just like He's also has raised attack, which means he's constantly stacking against the enemies, making him a very, very good pickup as far as starting off in the game. Because we all know that hill units in this game kind of lack in the department, but when you're a beginner, any hill unit is almost good for anything. So moving up into the SR section, there is some pretty good options in here as far as getting really into the deeper category and what easy pickups you can get out of this. Metal Bat is an immediate one that I recommend. Although Chaos Return is a bit more difficult, he is a good crit unit to get. He does deal more damage than the critical units that I've listed before, but he is a very good pickup as far as what you would want him for. Obviously, being metal, metal rush to get more gold. There's also another crit unit in here that is very good, being Asuna. She is also a very good pickup as far as crit. And once you get Asuna SR, she is capable of beating Idol Concert. I will be making a video in the future of how you can build her to beat Idol Concert. Solo insane, but she is also a very good pickup. I would say that she's better than Metal Bat just because she has a better category team that you can run with her. Considering any female in the game could be on this team, including people like Idol, but you know, you're grinding for Idol in the first place probably with this unit. So it is a very good pickup for beginners. Next one I'm going to mention is Rukia. Obviously, she has a double Evo, which means she is going to be harder to get, and her damage task is very tedious. But even getting her first evolution, she is getting a freeze ability, and she is also getting a full map freeze as well. And she is still very good even with her first Evo, and she will be very beneficial to you when you are damage farming for units. So keep that in mind that Rukia is very good. She basically has time stop. She has freeze, which freeze is probably one of the most underrated elements in the game. And then if you get her double, freeze 2 is absolutely broken. And she is very good for picking up, especially since she is pretty meta for damage farming to begin with. And if you're a beginner, she's going to help you out a lot. The next SR I'm going to recommend, you don't have to Evo him, but getting Mage Child in a good position is going to help you out a extraordinarily amount. Mage Child Evo is capable of beating Idol Concert. His team is a little tedious because the youth category depends on Power Reaper mostly, and Power Reaper is a bit tedious to get as a beginner. But even having him in his first Evo, he is still very good and could benefit you in beating Idol Concert, considering he is a crit, and he also comes with full AoE, and he is also extremely cheap. So that is what's going to make him very good. So as long as you have these rerolls pretty high, he's going to be very beneficial to you, regardless of whether he's Evo'd or not. As far as the rest of the SR list goes, there are a few in here that I do not have Evo'd, but that's more than likely because they're not the greatest in the entire world. And a lot of these could be just kind of ignored for the most part because they're not the greatest. But overall, a lot of these are pretty decent still. But keep in mind that they do not perform well under beginner-sided teams because you really need to have those category leads in order to maximize them to their full potential. Next thing we're going to talk about is URs. Now, UR is where things get very technical because they perform very good on a superb team. And some of these are actually a lot easier to get than you probably think. So I'm going to be hitting the beginner ones that I could tell you off the bat that I used a lot as a beginner and the ones that are going to benefit you the most. Obviously, starting off with Rimuru. Rimuru is a resist unit, and I can't tell you how many times you're probably going to get annoyed by people that are stunning your units, and Rimuru does not get stunned. Not only that, but Rimuru is relatively affordable. It's got good, decent beginner teams, and you can use Rimuru on the Flower of AWTD, making it a viable option to use in your team when you are trying to run the Idol raid, because she can just damage the other units while your Asuna is going to be taking care of those crits for you. So Rimuru is a very good pickup when you're leaning more towards into the UR category, and Rimuru is also still very easy to get. The next one I'm going to name right off the bat is probably going to have to be Joker. Joker, although he's a little bit harder to get, he is still very, very good, even without his Evo having the fear. And despite him also getting an Evo, he's still good with Evo because of this despair. So that way, he saves you the trouble of having to get someone like Kujaku, which can be tedious to get as a beginner, considering that Kujaku is a secret rare, and you also have to go through a whole process to get Kujaku anyways. But Joker is also a very good pickup and a relatively easy Evo to get as a UR. The next one I'm going to hit you with right off the bat is Goku. Is not this one. Goku Black. Goku Black is a bleeding unit, and he also summons clones. He is a summoner, and he has a lot of categories. Being his categories are kind of iffy, but I can tell you as a person who used Goku Black a enormous amount that he is a very good unit still. Especially if you're a beginner, he is extremely OP if you're a beginner. He is going to absolutely obliterate half the content in the game for you, and he can beat most raids if you're running the right team with him. And he's also capable of beating Katamura Town. So keep that in mind when you are kind of building your teams and getting your inventory up, that he is a still good pickup despite people really leaning more towards the best units in the game. Another one that I'm going to mention is obviously Dennis. Do everything in your power to get Dennis. If you can Evo him, that's even better. But Dennis is a very, very viable key into this game. And if you don't have a money unit in this game, please, for the love of everything, do not use Investigator or Bulma. Just use Dennis. Level him up to level 30. Excuse me. Level him up to level 30. Because you can see here, I have 207 stages cleared with Dennis. So obviously, I use him a lot. And he's also one of the best supports to bring with you in a raid anyways, just because of his money gain. If you can Evo him, it's even better, because then you can reroll his stats. But likewise, if you can get his Evo, his bleed in his second form is absolutely insane anyways. Most people know that Dennis is notorious for just being an absolute monster, regardless of whether you use him as support or not. But he is also a very good UR to pick up, regardless of whether you can get his Evo or not. Next one I'm going to hit you with is Koji Sirus. He's a very easy thing to get, and naturally, once you start getting to this point, you should be able to beat Tomb of the Star, which is a lot easier than what most people say. I'll be releasing a video later on about how to beat Tomb of the Star, because all the JJK characters in this game are absolutely ridiculous. So I'll be giving you guys the best method as a beginner to hit this Tomb of the Star as hard as you want and not really struggle with it much at all. Very good pickup. He's a raise attack. He does a crap ton of damage, and his Evo is insanely easy to get once you are capable of beating Tomb of the Star. Now, once we get to this point, once you get above this line right here, is where everything starts getting very meticulous. Megumi, first Evo, still good. Second Evo, OP is all can get. Very good pickup. Once you can beat Tomb of the Star, you want to not really push him super heavy, but you also want to push him super heavy. You always want to keep this character in mind as far as getting that initial start into this game. And he is also a very, very, very good pickup as far as trying to get him Evo'd. And his Evo is a little tedious to get because of his summons, especially his second one. But as long as you're using him for a lot of things, he is going to be very good. The biggest thing you're going to have trouble with is getting those duplicates. But as a beginner, you're building up such an exponential amount of puzzle pieces to begin with. You shouldn't have much hard time getting him. The next one I'm going to hit you with is Ratio Sorcerer. Ratio Sorcerer has got to be one of the most underrated characters in this game. I know a lot of people want to keep giving him crap because he's not that great of a crit unit, at least that's what most people say. But I can tell you as a person who has used him quite a bit, that he is still very good. And if you literally just bring him in a couple of supports, he's more than capable of getting you to wave 40. in the Metal Rush if you're running him with a good leader, or if you're even using his own leader, he's still more than capable of just about pushing wave 40 in Metal Rush. That's assuming that everything goes right and you have the good supports to back him up. Also, a very good unit to keep in mind. Now, I can't say much about Shigaraki. Pretty good, not that crazy. Jogo, the same thing, not that crazy. Overhaul. Overhaul is the most broken critical unit in the entire game. He is the king of Metal Rush. There's not a single unit in this game that obliterates Metal Rush more than him. Getting his Evo is still very hard. You don't need him for Metal Rush as a beginner, but once you get later into the game, feel free to go crazy and try to get him. But with the recent difficulty changes to Chaos Return, he is going to give you a headache to try to get. But if you really want to maximize your gold and have someone help you try to get him, and you want to have that big money, this is your guy. He is going to save you a lot of trouble. Not to mention, he's not only good for Metal Rush, he's also good for pretty much any other content in the game if you know what you're doing. But severely undermined, you can tell I have 1.2 trillion damage on him, and he barely hits 1.6 million at a full stack buff and with leader skill. So that should give you an idea of how much I use him. And the clear stage number, I mean, yeah, whatever. It might not show how much I use him, but I primarily use him just for Metal Rush. So keep that in mind. That overhaul is crazy for gold. Toto wrote, Toto, the best unit in this game, I swear. I don't care what anybody says. I will consistently tell people that Toto is better than just about every unit that you can use. He's good for infinite. He's good for raids. He's good for a lot of other stuff. He does outdamage Grammy to a certain extent, depending on what team you're running with him. He's absolutely broken. Should you limit break him? Yes. Should you spend all your rerolls on him? Probably, just because he is insane. But very good pickup. Also, if you have Koji Sirus evoed by the time you get to evoing him, and you're also beating Tomb of the Star at that point, his evo is so ridiculously easy to get. I almost regret even farming for Grammy at this point because of how good he is. Now, secret rares is where we really, really have to take the time to consider how long it takes to get some of these. I'm not going to recommend any of the ones that I wouldn't recommend to my past self, so we're going to be very careful here. And Grammy is the only secret you should be grinding for as a beginner. You can still get him as a beginner, especially since there's so many other people trying to get him at this moment. You want to get him. He's going to benefit you. He's the best raid unit in the game. He is also one of the best boss killers in the game, aside from Toto just doing more damage than him. That's pretty much the only thing that Toto has on Grammy, is the fact that Toto just speed blitzes his damage, and that's the biggest difference between the two. And despite my Toto not having been limit broken previously, he still did more damage than Grammy at max limit break. This is the only unit you will need to very, very much solo just about any raid in this game with little effort on Insane. He is very, very good, and if you want any secret in the game, please let this be your first one, because you're going to spend half of your time in your life getting him anyways, because he's hard to get. But by the time you get to that point in the game, you should be doing pretty well. Now, LRs is always going to be a sensitive topic because there are really bad LRs and there are very good LRs. Please, for the love of everything, do not let Gilgamesh be your first Evo in an LR. You are wasting your time. Is he the highest DPS unit in the game? Yes. Is he the best nuke in the game? Yes. Does he have the best team in the game? Arguably, yes. Do not waste your time getting the best nuke and attack unit in the game, because not only are you not going to use him half the time because there are going to be other people in this game better than you that is going to use him. But he takes a very long time to grind, and not to mention, although his materials are arguably the easiest LR materials to get, you're still not going to benefit from having him unless you have that team. I can tell you this, Emperor is probably his worst team, and it's the only other good team that he has. The Emperor category really suffers, although most of you are going to look at this category and say, those are some pretty good units in there. It's really not. The only two that you're going to run from this is probably Godly Energy and Treasure Hunter. And I can tell you, if you don't have any of the Treasure Hunters unlocked, which I pretty much, let's see, literally Snake Man, you need Shanks, you need Joker, you obviously have him, you're going to need Nami's Evo. All this other stuff is what's going to maximize his capacity in the first place. So please don't really just try to dive so hard into getting Gilgamesh when you probably don't really know how to use him. Is he good? Yes. Is he beginner friendly? Absolutely not. So with that said, let's talk about the actual LRs that you want as beginner. Blood Queen, obviously being the best LR you can get as a beginner. Her bleed's insane. She's full AoE. She's got good categories. Arguably the best categories that you can have on a unit. Excuse me. And she's very good pickup. Summon on Legends Festival to get her, especially since Legends Festival may or may not be around forever. So get her as soon as you can. Next one I'm going to hit you with is Shielder. Although Shielder is getting overshadowed by Peem, she's still really good. Try to get her. If you can't get Peem, try to get Shielder. You're going to get one of them either way, regardless. So also a very good pickup if you can't manage to get Peem. Fuji Tor is severely underrated. He's super OP as a hill unit. He starts off as a full AoE slow. I'm sure I don't have to say any more at that point. I literally have a max limit broken and a almost near god roll on him. He's very good, and he is still very usable for beginners. And I honestly wish I had him as a beginner in the game because he's ridiculous. The next one I'm going to mention is getting Peem, obviously being better than Shielder, and she also has an ability to remove status defects. So also a very good pickup in case you're running into some problems. Now, obviously, I haven't said anything about Mihawk or Madara or Ulquiorra. That's because there's a reason for it, and I'm sure once you grind for them, you'll understand. Gojo, get Gojo. Evo, I mean, by this point and getting into this tier list, you should know that getting through Tomb of the Star as a beginner is actually a lot easier. And as I said, I'll release a video on it later on, but I'm trying not to drag out this video too much longer because it's almost 30 minutes long. So Gojo, very good pickup. Even without his Evo, he still has time stop anyways. So consider put him on your list. Ghetto, easily the most broken LR in the game. Solo's pretty much entire story. Solo's half of the raids in the game. Also very good for Infinite. Despite him being a little bit more expensive than most LRs, he's still absolutely insane. Limit break him. If you want to limit break him, go right ahead. He's still good. Get good rerolls. Make sure that you're maximizing that cost and that range scale the most. His attack is really good either way, so if you lack in that attack scale just a little bit, it'll be alright. But you definitely want his range since he is a full AoE unit at max upgrade. And he's also a summoner. He's on the JJK team. He's got youth. He's got prodigy. He's got all the best crap in the game to regardless. And he also has his own power friendships lead. So very good. Ghetto being one of the best LRs in the game. And I think that would be the last of the LRs that we're going to speak of. Now the miracle units are something that people always have the biggest troubles with, and obviously I'm going to make this a lot easier for you just because I know miracle crafting plagues every new player and you're always constantly going to ask who to get, so I'm going to be solving that in this video. The first one you should get is Idol. Without a doubt, you need Idol. Get her first. This is your biggest priority in the game, is getting Idol as soon as possible. Even if you have to beg someone to carry you, you want to get idle as fast as possible. She is going to make your life so much easier in this game. That is easily the first one. Easily the second one, Yuta. Regardless of whether you have Dark Flame Lover or not, Yuta is still good. And you can also just substitute Dark Flame Lover with someone else who does have Charm. I believe there's only 2 other people with Charm. And I will just quickly check that. Yeah. Crimson Waifu, despite her being a secret, she's still really easy to get if you just summon. You'll come by her eventually. But either way, Yuta, despite not having Charm, is still very good. Easy second pickup. Obviously, with that said, Dark Flame Lover is going to be your second one. Very, very easy to get still. Very good. Consider getting him. He also has one of the best stuns in the game. So also a very good pickup. The next one I'm going to recommend is kind of a tricky one. It's a hard pick between Luffy and Power Reaper. I personally would say get Power Reaper first. He's better support. He doesn't do most damage in the world, but still really good pickup. And he's also the youth category lead for this game, so consider getting him. Luffy being the next one, just because Luffy's very easy to get. You can get all of his materials without effort, and considering that you're getting considering that you're going to be playing with those other 2 Luffys anyways in the beginning to probably get their evos, you're going to get through this pretty quickly. The only thing that might hit you with a problem is getting these duplicates, but they're both low rarity anyways. So from that point on, from the Luffy point on, you can get whatever you want. I'm just going to say that. Just don't let Sid be your first one. Don't grind for Sid if you're not prepped for it. Even if you're being hard carried, don't press for Sid so hard. Sid is very, very good, but despite that factor, you need to keep in mind that you need to utilize your grinding methods proficiently at all times, even as a beginner. But I'm not going to drag out this video too much longer. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys got the information you wanted, despite having to listen to me run my mouth for 30 minutes. But I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave any questions you have down below. And as always, enjoy your day, and I'll see you in the next video.